The Sahara, a giant sunburned sandbox the size of the United States. Hardly anyone lives there. Why? Is it the heat, the lack of water, or just that camels got dibs first? Let's find out. First off, the Sahara isn't really empty, it's just picky about who stays. Take the Tuaregs, 2 million strong, scattered from Mali to Niger. They have been out here since before Athens even dreamed up the Parthenon. Some historians even think they might be distant cousins of the ancient Egyptians, which means they were desert influencers before Instagram existed. They call themselves free men, and they mean it. They fought back against everyone who even looked in their direction. Rome, the French, even the weather. And that's saying something when your backyard hits 122 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius. So, there are people out there. Just look at this map. But from space, the Sahara looks empty, as though someone hit delete on half a continent. The only people brave enough to be out here? Nomadic tribes. Their homes, traditional tents made from fabric and animal hair. Their livestock provides food and drink, and the method of travel, camel caravans, reliable in the blistering desert heat and essential for seeking out water sources. But more on them later. Let's take a wider look at the Sahara. The only green streak? It's over here, the Nile Valley. It's Egypt's cheat code. Predictable floods, endless farmland, and a history longer than your ex's list of red flags. Go west, and Libya tried to one-up nature with the great man-made river. It was a $25 billion underground straw-sucking water from ancient aquifers. Beyond that, it's the Great Beige Void. Between the Nile and the Sahel, population density drops. Across 3.6 million square miles, yeah, that's about 9.3 million square kilometers, only about 2.5 million people actually call this place home. The rest, well, it's basically the world's largest solar panel minus the electricity. But, there's something kind of peculiar about this dead zone. So, back in 332 BC, Alexander the Great marched into Egypt and, well, got himself crowned pharaoh. But apparently, conquering the known world just wasn't enough for him. He decided to take a little stroll across the Sahara, his destination, the Siwa Oasis, which is tucked deep in the Qattara Depression. It's a place so low it's practically Earth's belly button, 62 feet, or about 19 meters below sea level. And get this, 200 springs bubble up through porous limestone and clay, quietly defying the laws of this place should not exist. Alexander was declared the son of the god Amun. Yeah, that's right. The desert looked at this sweaty Macedonian and basically called him Zeus Jr. You'd think he'd retire after that, but nope, the man just kept walking. Today, around 25,000 people still live in Siwa, preserving ancient traditions amid dunes shaped like pyramids designed by Salvador Dali, or at least that's how they seem. But Siwa's just one oasis in the Sahara's secret network of watery loopholes. The biggest one? That's Tafalalet, all the way down in southern Morocco. It's the heavyweight champ of oases, nearly 30,000 square miles of palm groves lounging between cliffs of molten gold sand. It's less desert wasteland, more VIP section for dates and donkeys. Look at a population map and, well, it's obvious. Even a cactus could do the math. Water equals life. No water, no party. And everywhere else. Mars cosplay. Aside from the Nile and a few shy rivers hiding in the west, surface water is basically a rumor passed around at campfires. But 7,000 years ago, the Sahara was straight up green, a full-on tropical vibe. Hippos, cattle, people splashing around like it was some Bronze Age beach resort. Ancient rock art proves it, the world's oldest vacation selfies. Then came the great ghosting. The rains left, the rivers vanished, and the Sahara went full minimalist. It's all part of a 240,000-year climate cycle that swings between Eden and good luck surviving past noon. Every 20,000 years, Earth wobbles on its axis. It's enough to throw the monsoons off course and turn paradise into a blow-dryer, the planet's version of mood swings. We're deep in the Sahara's dry phase. The planet's built-in dehydrate setting. The monsoons packed up ages ago and moved south, leaving North Africa kind of on hold. Rain here is about as predictable as your phone battery after an update. Officially, the Sahara gets less than 3 inches of rain a year, but that's just the average. A third of it gets just 0.4 inches. Another 17%? Barely 0.2. That's the kind of dry that exfoliates your soul. Meanwhile, Phoenix, Arizona, gets to brag about something. At last. Sure, it's hot enough to deep fry an egg on your driveway and, honestly, your sanity on the walk to your car. But at least Phoenix has rivers. Real ones. The Colorado, the Salt, the Verde. A whole smorgasbord of hydration. They've got lawns, swimming pools, Zillow listings. The Sahara, just mirages and regret. But beneath all that sand, ancient water, trapped from when this place was lush. Take a look at this map. Giant underground aquifers. The biggest, the Nubian sandstone aquifer system, sprawls across 1 million square miles, enough to keep the taps running for centuries. Except, it's fossil water. Once you drink it, it's gone. No refills. Rain doesn't come here anymore. Libya's great man-made river lives off this ancient stash, slurping the remains of a wetter world. When it dries up, so does the fantasy of a green Sahara. And if you like these map dives, make sure to hit the subscribe button. My ambition's evaporating faster than groundwater. Anyway, even the oases, those tiny, stubborn green miracles, are dying slow deaths. The desert's gradually expanding every year in hotspot zones, swallowing the Sahel, 1 grain at a time. At Timbuktu, the Niger River just ghosted the place, isolating the city from a reliable river source. Now the Sahel's crumbling into dust, and everyone left is watching the horizon creep closer. A slow-motion avalanche made of sand whispering, soon. Siwa? Tafilalit? They're candles in a hurricane. Bright, beautiful, doomed. No water means no people, no cities, no tomorrow. The lights are still on, but the desert's already reaching for the switch. And yet, in the Western imagination, Timbuktu still sounds like a bedtime story for geography nerds. I'm not talking about you. In one British poll, a third of people didn't even think it existed. Figures. The Sahara's always been the world's biggest catfish. But for now, Timbuktu is real. And its fairy tale rep? Well, it comes from salt. The city didn't just rise because of it. It actually thrived on it. The Sahara hides more than 20 salt lakes and mines like Tagaza and Taudeni, ancient money pits where men literally mined white gold. Timbuktu sat dead center, shipping salt north to the Mediterranean and south into the savannah. Back then, salt wasn't just seasoning, it was, honestly, life insurance. No fridges, no ice, just sodium or, starvation. Eat your food unsalted. You weren't rustic, you were barbaric. Civilization, quite literally, was built on seasoning. Salt Bay would have been in his element. But just like Salt Bay's career, the Sahara's Salt Act went too far. All sizzle, no survival, too little water, too much salt, Earth's worst skincare routine. Rome supposedly salted the Earth after destroying Carthage. The Sahara? Well, it did it to itself. When the climate flipped, the region's lakes vanished almost overnight, geologically speaking, leaving behind a crunchy crust of minerals. Fantastic for ancient traders. Awful if you were hoping to plant, well, anything. Even now, the soil's still marinating in salt. A few scraggly grasses poke through, plus the occasional palm tree. Then there's the desert watermelon. It's toxic enough the FDA straight up banned it and the US Army warned soldiers against eating it. And as if salt and poison melons weren't enough, the Sahara's got bacteria that hoard water like doomsday preppers. They trap every drop underground to protect themselves. A microscopic conspiracy to keep the desert dry. Life exists here, sure, but it's the kind of life that makes sure nothing else does. Sift away the dunes, and you'll find what's really beneath. Yermasols, the desert's favorite dirt. They're the most common soil here, and they have a unique trait. Quirky, not like the other soils. They're thin, like influencer skinny. Beneath that barely there layer, gravel and pebbles. It's like the earth gave up halfway through making topsoil. If you're dreaming of farming here, forget it. Crops don't grow in gravel. About the best you'll get is a toxic watermelon and a sunburn, and even if you somehow could grow something you'd have to deal with seasons. Except the Saharas don't care about the whole spring, summer, fall thing. Its seasons are just levels of chaos, from gentle exfoliation to sandblaster set to annihilate. In West Africa, from December to April, you get the harmattan. Locals call it the doctor wind, probably because it keeps doctors busy. It's dry and slightly cooler, but it also delivers bonus prizes like parasites and tuberculosis-causing microbes. The humidity drops below 5%, which is great if you're beef jerky, not so much if you're human. Meanwhile, over in East Africa and the Levant, they get the Khamsin, the Sahara's hairdryer mode. 50 days of wind from March to May, blasting at up to 87 miles per hour, 140 kph. The mercury hits over 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius. That's not weather, that's nature's way of saying, you shouldn't live here. And these winds don't just melt people, they ruin dessert. Literally, chocolate prices spike every time the harmattan goes beast mode. The 2025 season was the driest in 6 years. Cocoa farmers in Ghana and the Ivory Coast watching their crops crisp up like a Scotsman in the Sahara. The result was the lowest cocoa yield in 21 years, so when you shell out $12 for a Valentine's box of chocolates, remember that's not inflation, that's the Sahara blowing hot dust on your romance. Every year, the Sahara's winds do their worst. Not content to just roast crops, they go full mob boss and bury them alive. Plants can't photosynthesize when they're wrapped in nature's sandpaper. The wind even erodes the soil. No surprise desert people gave up and traded salt, gold, and ivory instead. You'd ditch farming too if your fields kept blowing into the next time zone. But the wind doesn't stop at crops, it's civilization's arch enemy. Sand here doesn't just sting, it schemes. It scours skin, shreds buildings, and eats power lines. Engines choke, filters clog, and machinery sounds like it's gargling gravel. Infrastructure doesn't age here, it erodes. The Trans-Sahara Highway, the world's longest construction project, started in the 1970s, and it's still not done. Parts are still unpaved. Price tag so far? $175 million in Niger alone. The world's priciest dirt road. And yet, beneath all that dust lies treasure. The Sahara's ancient green past left more than hippo fossils. It left a buried fortune. Oil, gas, uranium, phosphate. Algeria alone sits on 2% of the world's natural gas. Egypt and Libya are floating on trillions of cubic feet more. Algeria's uranium stash? About 26,000 tons. Morocco's phosphates? Enough to feed half the planet, literally, through fertilizer. The Sahara's not barren, it's just stockpiling like it knows something we don't. Why isn't it rich then? Simple. You can't dig without water. Oil drilling, uranium refining, gas extraction, they all need it. And here, water isn't a resource, it's a religious experience. Using it to mine energy would be like draining your last oasis to charge your iPhone. Try pitching that to someone whose village just disappeared under a migrating dune. And even if industry somehow takes off, it'll chew up what's left of the land. Pumping, drilling, mining, all just different ways of taking a sledgehammer to soil that's already on life support. It'd poison the few water pockets still hanging on. Let's be honest, the Sahara doesn't need help getting drier, but we keep showing up with shovels anyway. Then come the man-made messes. What do you think of when you hear Libya? Well, things aren't as chaotic as the civil wars of the 2010s, but calling it stable is definitely glass half full. The UN-backed government of national unity mostly exists on letterhead. Elections promised for 2021, still a mirage. Rival militias keep circling like vultures at an all-you-can-eat buffet of bad decisions. It's so fragile that history's dark echo has returned. The trans-Saharan slave trade, supposedly ended last century, but now it's back through Libya's smuggling routes, where traffickers move people instead of salt. So sure, the desert holds riches, oil, gas, minerals, human trafficking, but who's going to invest billions in a place where governments evaporate faster than sweat? No company wants to bet on infrastructure that could be buried by politics before the sand even gets a chance. Zoom out, and it's the same story across the map. The borders slicing through the Sahara are colonial ghosts. They were drawn by Europeans who by 1914 owned 90% of Africa after having just 10% in 1870. Lines made in Europe, forced on Africa. The land never listened. And now, it's reminding everyone who's really in charge: the wind, the heat, and time itself. When the old empires finally finished straight up murdering each other, they were too broke to keep their colonies. But handing them back was less graceful exit and more good luck with that. The colonizers had drawn borders through cultures they barely understood. Trade routes and communities were sliced up. The result? A map held together with bad guesses and arrogance. Those lines are still haunting everyone today. The borders may be arbitrary, but the countries they carved up are painfully real. Political Frankenstein stitched together. Most are run by strongmen who rose from the aftershocks of the Arab Spring, each one promising stability while holding a match over a barrel of gasoline. The Sahel War now stretches across a large swathe of Africa. It's the desert's version of a group project where everyone's failing. When French forces pulled out of Mali in 2022, the power vacuum didn't just sit there. Military regimes poured in. Now figures like Abdourahmane Chiani run the show, turning the region into a patchwork of juntas. Not exactly where investors line up with PowerPoints and open checkbooks. You can't pitch stability when the guy signing your permit shows up in sunglasses and a tank. And colonialism didn't just wreck politics, it wrecked the dirt, literally. Europe forced locals to ditch sustainable crops for cash ones like cotton. It stripped the soil faster than the colonizers stripped the land. By the time independence rolled around, the ground was cooked. All the nutrients gone, slow cooked by the sun until even the dirt tapped out. So is the Sahara doomed. Not quite. But don't expect a Disney ending. Take Doha, Qatar. A sci-fi mirage that actually worked. It hit an average of 41 degrees Celsius, 106 degrees Fahrenheit last year, and it's doing okay. It's powered by sheer stubbornness and desalination plants. Since 1954, Doha has been turning seawater into tap water so efficiently that 99.9% of its supply comes from the Gulf. The other 0.01%? Aquifers. Backup for when Poseidon rage quits. It's an engineering miracle, one the Sahara can't even dream of. You can't desalinate what you don't have, like access to a water reserve and a few billion tucked behind a dune. Qatar's secret weapon isn't luck. It's liquid gold and explosive personality. The country's sitting on over 25 billion barrels of oil and 843 trillion cubic feet, 23.9 trillion meters of natural gas, about 11% of the planet's stash. And as of February 2024, Qatar Energy claims it's found even more. Another 240 trillion cubic feet, 6.8 trillion cubic meters, in the North Field. What does that mean? Money, mountains of it. Enough to make Qatar the world's 5th richest country per capita. That's buy another soccer team just to bench it. Rich. The process isn't cheap. About $5 to $10 per 1,000 gallons. But when your GDP could drown a small nation, you don't sweat the bill. Now picture Libya trying that trick. Desalination on Qatar's scale? Not a chance. And Libya's one of the richer nations in the Sahara. Sudan, Mauritania, Senegal, they're not even in the race. Unless some miracle investor shows up with deep pockets and zero fear of coups, desalination's staying on the wish list, right next to democratic government. Sure, Libya's great man-made river does it, but you try maintaining it through sandstorms and shifting dunes. And roads? Forget it. And then there's politics. The Sahara's most persistent drought. Moving anything across these borders means negotiating with governments that can barely negotiate with themselves. In theory, they could fund projects together using oil and gas money. In practice, that requires peace, stability, and a total absence of coups. 3 things the Sahara's allergic to. Niger alone has had 5 since independence in 1960. There's one country in the Sahara you won't find on most maps. The Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, aka the SADR. It is actually a government that almost no one recognizes. It claims Laayoune as its capital, but Morocco controls both the city and about 80% of the territory. To lock that down, Morocco built a 1,400-mile, 2,200 sand wall, cheerily called the Free Zone. The SADR's de facto capital, Rabuni, a refugee camp with a flag. This stalemate's been dragging on since the 1970s, making long-term investments sound like the setup to a cruel joke. Desalination plants? Shipping routes? Please. No one bets billions on land where even the borders can't stay put. So what's the Sahara's biggest export? Not oil, not gas, not even water. It's dust. Every summer the Saharan air layer kicks up 180 million tons of the stuff and yeets it across the Atlantic. It drifts over New York, sprinkles the Caribbean, and settles in Cancun, just in time to photobomb someone's honeymoon. But it's also Florida's BFF. Remember the hurricane factory that was the 2005 Atlantic season? 2006 was supposed to be the sequel. 16 named storms, 10 hurricanes, 6 majors. Instead, the Sahara hit send dust and the ocean said, "I'm out." Only 5 hurricanes showed up, and just 2 made varsity. That dry air choked the storm systems, the desert's idea of weather management, and the dust doesn't just kill storms, it feeds jungles. Each year, about 27.7 million tons of Sahara dust fall on the Amazon basin, loaded with phosphorus, rainforest vitamins. It's nature's weirdest supply chain, one of the driest places on Earth keeping one of the wettest alive, nature's strangest long-distance relationship. 15,000 years when the Sahara finally stopped sneezing dust across the planet, things could get messy. Expect more hurricanes gunning for Florida and fewer nutrients landing in the Amazon. A terrible trade, more chaos for everyone. But that's a tomorrow problem. Today, the countries bordering the desert, the Sahel nations, are just trying not to get buried by sand. And that's where the Great Green Wall comes in. Africa's grand plan to fight sand with leaves. Launched in 2007, it's a botanical Hail Mary. 5,000 miles, 8,046 kilometers of trees meant to restore 247 million acres, 100 million hectares, of dead land, trap millions of tons of CO2, and create 10 million jobs by 2030. Basically, the planet's biggest gardening project. Even Eritrea signed on, probably because its president doesn't want to wake up one day with beachfront property made entirely of dust. It's bold, it's brilliant, it's behind schedule. As of last year, only about 30% of the target areas were restored. Coordination across a dozen countries has been about as smooth as camel ballet in a sandstorm. Critics call it green neo-colonialism, especially after Emmanuel Macron showed up in 2021 with a checkbook and a guilty conscience. Nothing says, "Sorry for colonizing you," like offering to plant a few trees. And really, not everyone wants the same hand that once held the whip, now handing out watering cans. Still, there are bright spots. Senegal's chunk of the wall actually works. Proof that when locals take charge, the desert backs off. More nations are following suit. When your livelihood's being buried alive, you plant trees first and count profits later. But that's the Sahara. Always hungry, always moving. A beast that demands tribute just to let you exist. When an entire continent has to grow a forest the size of Australia just to stay livable, you realize survival here isn't a lifestyle, it's a job, with no breaks, no benefits, and the boss, the wind. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on Wonder Map.